Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited today to interview Will Todd. He's an English composer and piano, well known for his beautiful and exciting music. His anthem, The Call of Wisdom, was performed at the Queen's Diamond Jubilee celebrations with a TV audience of 45 million people. His breakthrough work, Mass in Blue, originally titled Jazz Mass, has been performed hundreds of times all over the world. His arrangement of Amazing Grace was performed at President Obama's Inauguration Day prayer service in 2013 and as part of the BBC's Nelson Mandela Thanksgiving service. His music's regularly broadcast on Classic FM and on BBC Radio 3. Will Todd's music is valued for its melodic intensity, harmonic skill, and often incorporating jazz colors, and his choral music is much in demand from amateur as well as professional performers. And this bio goes on and on. I'm just selecting a couple of key things from it. Welcome, Will Todd. How are you doing today?
Hey, listen, it's really nice to be here, Andrew. I'm very good. I was just saying, I finished composing for the day
Hmm.
because we're ahead of time in here in England, so I'm now ready to talk about my music. So I'm really looking forward to chatting to you.
Excellent. And your morning ritual is very interesting. You want to tell us a little bit about how you do that?
Sure, yes. So for forever, really, the start of my musical day is I do free improvisation at the piano, and I
Hmm.
think this kind of goes back to when I was a kid and when I first encountered the piano. Um, I literally experimented on the instrument, and
Hmm.
in that sense, I say that I'm a self-taught pianist
Yeah.
because although I had some great teachers a bit later in my musical journey, the initial relationship with the piano was by experimentation and
Hmm.
improvising. So I still do this every day. I begin the day with a completely free playing session. Sometimes it's 3 minutes long, sometimes it's 10 minutes long. And I think it kind of centers me in my music making.
Hmm. And do you think about a key as you're playing, or do you just let your hands just kind of fall across the keyboard? How do you process that?
It's really important for me that I don't think of anything before I start. So
Hmm.
I look at the keyboard and I look and I look and I look, and eventually I'll just either play a chord or start playing a little phrase. It feels like that's the right thing for me to do, like I'm truly exploring. Because,
Hmm.
a lot of the time as musicians, we do things that we know.
Yes.
We play the chords we like, and I love doing that as well, of course. But in this process, I like to feel like I'm just almost like I'm looking at a completely new view.
Hmm.
When you go up the side of a hill and you don't know what's over the top, and then you suddenly see it, and then it's part of your life. It's kind of, I try and be like that. So I try and go from a blank mind
Hmm.
and then create from that.
That's wonderful because later we'll actually hear some things that are strictly your improvisation. It's just beautiful. So that's wonderful. So when did you first touch the piano? Do you remember how old you were roughly? Were you like 3 years old or is that
I think I
13?
was. I think
Yeah.
no. I think I was two or 3 years old. I had a big
Oh.
sister who learned the piano,
Hmm.
and I loved listening to her play. And I used to. I do have a memory of climbing up onto a piano stool. So I must have been small enough for a piano stool to feel like a big thing that you climbed up onto,
Wow. Yeah.
um, and literally just playing notes. And my dad tells the story that he used to love listening to me just explore.
Hmm.
And now as a parent, I think good for him because he didn't get in the way. He
Yeah.
just thought, right, there's a little child messing. I mean, it's not messing around. I was kind of trying stuff. So I think that's an example there, thinking of my dad, of how sometimes as teachers we have to let the pupil get on with it, and
Yes.
discover
Yeah.
that way.
Now, were your parents also musical?
They were not musicians,
Yeah.
but loved music,
Hmm.
and we had a great diet in the house of loads of different types of music. My mum
Hmm.
listened to opera records
Ah.
and
Mhm.
um, and pop music, so she loved kind of pop music and opera. My
Yeah.
dad loved opera also, but jazz and classical.
Hmm.
Uh, my sisters, who were older than me, were bringing records home, like rock records from the 70s, pop
Hmm.
records. There was lots of stuff going down, and I just loved it all. I learned things from all of these different wonderful forms of music. It's
Yeah.
great.
Now, one of the things you talk about too is in your bio. In fact, I love when you go to willtodd.com, folks. you'll see immediately a video come up where we'll share some of his background. You talk about the fact that you were fascinated with choral kinds of things, and how did that come about for you?
Well, so choral music, I suppose, entered my life pretty early because in the church that my mum went to and we
Hmm.
went to on a Sunday, there was a quite a good parish choir,
Hmm.
and they sang, an anthem every Sunday morning, which I would hear. And quite soon, I was begging to be in this choir, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
And I think that I think the rule was you went in at age 7, but I think the choir master kind of bent the rule a bit, and I went in about 6.5, I
Oh
think,
wow,
something like that.
slid under
Um,
the wire. I love it.
yeah, absolutely, and it was the start of a fantastic journey for me. I
Hmm.
think it's great to learn about choral music from the inside, from singing, even
Hmm.
if you don't end up being a choral singer in the end, from a composing perspective, to have sung in choirs and who've experienced harmony from within a choir
Yeah.
uh, is a wonderful thing.
Hmm.
So whether I was singing in choir or listening to choral concerts, and the town I grew up with had plenty of those also,
Hmm.
um, I always recognised that there was something very special about a group of people singing music together, for us as an audience and
Hmm. It's a
experiencing
beautiful
that.
thing. It really is. Yeah. So when did you decide to devote your life to being a musician? When did that happen for you?
Well, I think, to be honest, I didn't really ever have much of a different path. I think I always thought there's
Hmm.
going to be something musical. There was
Yeah.
one brief period where we have a very English game. In fact, it's not only English, it's played in the States now as well, called cricket, of
Hmm.
which you will no doubt have heard.
Hmm.
And I loved playing cricket when I was a young teenager. And for a
Ah.
while, I was thinking maybe I'll play cricket for England.
Hmm.
Um,
You were that good.
no, I wasn't.
You just wanted to be that good.
But I was good at dreaming, right?
Yeah, sure.
So that fell by the wayside. So I was left with music. No, I think seriously, because I was singing choir and then I started learning instruments and I just immersed myself. I was that kind of child who wanted to be in every music group,
Hmm.
and I'd run myself ragged with how many things I was doing because I just loved being in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I look back and I think what a blessing it was that I had all these opportunities where I grew up. There were choirs and there were
Hmm.
orchestras and bands and different things, and I got to try lots of different stuff and just enjoy, because there's not just the music, of course. There's that lovely social aspect to music making.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
in a choir or an orchestra, so you make great friendships. So
Hmm.
it really was my life from I would say my mid-teens. I don't think there was any doubt.
Now, the fact that you mentioned cricket, I couldn't help but ask you because you talk about the fact that you edit your music and write it while listening to a cricket game. And I don't know. I don't know much about cricket, but if there's something called halftime, like we have in football, where you might get confused with a half note versus a whole note, or you're just not sure how you can maintain your concentration writing music and listening at the same time. That's pretty
I
interesting.
don't know what it is, because obviously when you're writing music, you can't listen to music, right? That's one
Yes.
of the things you're
Oh,
not going to do. So,
right.
so the spoken word is nice, and I suppose I've just got used to kind of having. If you ever want to waste half an hour of your life, have a listen to some English cricket commentary on the radio. There's
Yes.
this very sort of English chitter chatter that goes on. They're
Mm.
sort of describing the game, but they're also just sort of chatting about stuff, and it's quite a relaxed. Whereas in some forms of sport commentary, it's very hyperactive.
Yeah.
You'd get very carried on, but this is gentle, so that's how I can edit to it, I think.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, let's talk about some of your music now. You have an album out, All Will Be Well, and a beautiful piece called A New Sunrise. You want to tell us a little bit about that before we listen to it?
Sure. So, A New Sunrise, it's a short orchestral piece,
Hmm.
chamber strings and harp. Um, and it actually got written at a friend's house in Rhinebeck in New York State, funnily enough. I was visiting a good friend of mine, David Simpatico,
Hmm.
and I was waking up in the morning and enjoying this beautiful, they live in a kind of forest, and I literally saw the sun rise. Now, this doesn't happen to me all the time, but I suddenly felt this really strong sense of I want to write a piece of music.
Hmm.
So I went to sat down and basically sketched this piece very quickly in a kind of single thing. And as you'll hear in the piece, it kind of builds up. It's like dawn is breaking, but there's
Hmm.
also in it there's a kind of painful quality to the music, or kind of nostalgic. So maybe there's something about the fact that in the rising of the sun, it's not always necessarily fully positive. We have fears for the day, we have regrets about yesterday.
Interesting.
So
Oh.
I think it takes the sunrise motif, and I explore it in a particular way.
Uh-huh. All right. Well, with that background, I think I'll truly appreciate this. Just beautiful. Oh my God. just amazing. And so much of music today is seen on the internet, so that the video element is often very supportive and important. How did you go about getting the video done on this? Was that something you collaborated with someone on, or?
Yes, so actually, we had an assistant last year just on a temporary contract called Matt
Hmm.
Stevens, and one of his kind of side skills, if you like, was video editing. So when we were working on the album, we had quite a lot of material. Filming different things, and he said, could I have a go at making a video of that track?
Mm-hmm.
So we said, yeah, sure,
Mm.
So he worked on it, and I think it's absolutely beautiful,
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous, and he kind of interpreted it, and I he kind of went in a certain direction as well that he
Hmm.
wanted to go in,
Yeah.
and I love that in collaboration because I
Yeah.
think then you get the best, don't you? You get your idea, but then someone
Yeah.
interprets the idea.
You threw a little
So
pollution in at the end, and then had the growth of new
yeah,
plants
well, I
coming
mean,
out of this.
exactly. Yeah, there's that kind of concern, and then
Yeah.
there's the potential as the shoots come through again. Yeah,
Yeah. And that there's a pathos to the whole thing too. There's a
yes,
well,
I think that's what I meant
yeah.
before. I think of the music of Mahler, who
Ah.
I love that music. There's a Mahlerian hauntingness to that
Yes.
somehow, which was not intentional, but of course it's one of the many strands in my musical DNA is that
Sure.
the music there.
Now, who else were you think encouraged by, or what other music did you? What other composers did you listen to?
Well, as I was saying, we grew up listening to a lot of different types of
Yeah,
music. I
that's true.
remember particular records that we had at home. There were various jazz records that I loved. There was a Dizzy Gillespie
Mm,
record. There was also a Dave Brubeck record. I remember
mm,
being very
mhm,
impressed with that.
mm, mhm.
Um, I loved listening to the opera music. Puccini, big fan of
Yes.
Puccini for
Yeah.
that lush sound. But a lot of jazz records in that early period, and I think I liked the harmony. I was very drawn to the interesting harmonies that you get in
Yeah.
jazz. Sometimes
Absolutely.
very simple and sometimes very complex.
Now, were there other typically classical romantic composers that influenced you well? Do you think?
Oh, sure. I mean, I had whole love affairs with different composers. I went through a Beethoven phase.
Right. Yeah.
And I used to get the scores out of the library or buy those little small scores, and I used to enjoy looking at those.
Mm.
Sibelius, the symphonies of Sibelius,
Hmm.
Shostakovich, as I got a
Ah.
bit more into my teenage years,
Yeah.
and you encounter different things.
Mm.
Um, so they were the kind of symphonic composers, if you like. But
Hmm.
then there was also musical theatre composers. I mean, Bernstein,
Oh yeah.
and then other great American musical, the great American musical genre, which is a whole fantastic thing in its own right.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now let's go on to something completely different. This is called the Saxophone Concerto. We'll just play an excerpt of it. What's a little background on that one, if you would?
So this is an early piece. This was written when I was 21,
Oh
no,
wow.
20, this
Hmm.
was, and I was still at university at the time, and I was
Hmm.
playing a lot of jazz with ensembles, but I was also very interested in orchestral music. And I had this opportunity via one of the student orchestras to work on a piece which would combine the jazz trio and saxophone and a chamber orchestra. And so I
Hmm.
wrote this piece, in that way that you do when you're very young, kind of without fear. I just threw everything together.
You remember those days? Okay, so we'll just play an excerpt of this, but this is quite fun, and I'm sure folks will enjoy it. That was a lot of fun. That must have been a lot of fun to play. It must have been wild at 21 to have that kind of a piece come out of you. That must have been amazing.
Yeah,
To
well, I always think, there's an energy you have, isn't it, when you're adolescent period and into your early adulthood, and it is the
yeah,
old thing, like you don't know it can't be done, so you just go ahead and do it, and
yeah,
then many of us reach a different point in life where everything feels like we're uncertain again. And I think, I mean, in many ways, I think that's why I do this improvising in the morning, because I feel real freedom when I do that. And I think it
yeah.
reminds me of that kind of youthful freedom. I'm just enjoying making music.
Right. Yeah, that's wonderful. Now this is something different. This is the Brunel Orchestra Suite, Destiny and Demons. Want to give us a little background on that one?
Yeah, so this also during my time at Bristol University,
Oh.
where I studied, and I stayed on for a master's degree there in composition. And at the end of my time there, I worked on a big musical theatre piece about the famous British engineer Isambard Kingdom Brunel,
Hmm.
who built lots of infrastructure in Britain in the 1840s through to the 1860s, really.
Hmm.
Um, and the musical sank without a trace, as so many musicals do. But we managed to
Oh.
put it on. And later on, when I had an opportunity to record some music professionally,
Hmm.
someone suggested, "Why don't you make a suite out of the music?" So this was one of the sections, and it kind of deals with Brunel's kind of inner, not exactly, well, demons, but also his kind of sense of fate and destiny.
Okay. Oh, wonderful. I'm just fascinated by how folks like you can take all these colors, sounds, timbres, effects, and put them together in a way that makes sense. And in my mind, just I write on the piano and then I give it to someone else to orchestrate, have some ideas, but
Well, I mean,
you know, it's
and that is a great method. And actually, that's another example of collaboration, isn't it? Where
yeah.
you focus on one element of it, and then the orchestrator can do the other. And that's been a
Mm.
very rich method over the years. I think maybe because I was listening to so much orchestral music in my teenage years and looking at the scores,
Mm.
I became quite obsessed with, how do you make that sound? How do you get a nice string sound? I mean, it's interesting listening to that because, of course, I wouldn't orchestrate that now as I did then.
Really? Okay.
Um, and, and,
I
and,
thought it was
and
very
it,
nice.
well,
Yeah.
thank you. But
Yeah.
in good and bad ways, I think there's a nice kind of when you're a bit younger, you just kind of you kind of just paint it as it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, there can be a danger as you get older that you kind of you make things more subtle. And I think as creatives in general, I think we have to kind of fight with ourselves to make sure we're still being kind of vital and
Yeah.
energetic in our music making.
Well, I'm
Um,
fascinated by the fact that at some point you thought I should put a xylophone in here, or whatever it is, and then just the idea of how you think about that is kind of, I'm not sure you have the answer, but the idea is you want to do something different here, and it's going to be that sound. I guess part of it might be from looking at scores of other people over time and seeing how they do it. It gives you a good feel for what's possible in the world of
I think
orchestration.
it does. It does, doesn't it? And you hear different textures and you try different things out. And it's part of the journey of an orchestral piece is the different sounds that you get to
Mm.
hear.
Hmm. Now,
Um,
this next thing we're going to play is part of Playing Free, which is your album of all your improvisations. And one of the things you told me earlier is that you have a strict rule that once you record it, you don't change or edit anything. So that's quite fascinating to me. That sounds scary, actually. So,
well, it's because in trying to capture the thing I do, first thing
mm,
in the day, I
yeah,
felt like that was the honest thing. You could never edit it, and you could never go back and
right,
try it again.
yeah.
So they're all these pieces on Playing Free. They literally started with me looking at my hands, played a note, and then it
Mm.
went from there. You know.
And so probably if I'm correct, you probably can't play it exactly the same way again because it's
No,
coming out
absolutely
freeform.
not. No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, no,
That's
no.
fascinating. That's
In fact,
fascinating.
various people have asked me to transcribe them, and I'm like, God, that'll be a job of work.
There's actually a group in England, by the way, that does that for me. I just send them my recordings and they just transcribe it. It's beautiful.
I,
Uh,
I need their number. I need
yeah,
to get in
okay.
touch
And I
with
have to go back and edit a little bit, but it saves me a lot of time because I'm
I
just
like
terrible.
that.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. So now this first one is called To the Heart. And it's got a wonderful little video with it too. Anything else you want to add before I play that?
Well, just that the video, of course, I think it contains some of my hands moving. So that is me actually doing the live improvisation because I visually recorded them. So as my hands are moving there, it is being composed in real time.
I love it. I love it. That's wonderful. Very nice.
Thank
Now,
you, thank you.
yeah, I interviewed one fellow that knows nothing about music at all and just does kind of improvisations visually. But you also have the mental capacity to understand what you're doing at the same time. So I don't know how much that informs you, or if you just still kind of just go with whatever flows under your fingers.
Well, it's interesting because I think what happens is once I've started with an idea, then I think, yes, you do have certain analytical experience thinking I could move to that place,
Mm,
maybe
mhm.
maybe like that one is on a pedal at the start, then is it going to move to a place?
Right, right.
Maybe preparing to move to another key center, is it going to be, a related one or a very unrelated one? And so
Hmm.
then you can make choices about contrast
Yeah,
at that point. And do you strive to go back to the home key where you started? I mean, you don't have to, of course, but sometimes you
right.
feel like that's the right journey, if you
Yes.
like, you know.
Now, I love this next title. I don't know if there's a story behind that, but of course, getting titles for things is always a challenge for me. But this one is just simply called And Then. So I love that.
Well, if you look at the titles
Hmm.
of the I was just going to say, if you read the whole titles on the Spotify, you'll see that the all the titles make a statement about creativity.
Oh,
So if you read it through, all the titles just as one thing
uh-huh.
makes sense.
I'll have to look at that.
So
I don't know if I
have a
have
look.
that readily available. Do I? Can I do that now? Let's see. Um, oh, here we go. When I begin, a path
When
is
I begin, a
revealed.
path is revealed, and then I can journey through music, caressing phrases, seeking harmonies, listening, and becoming one with the song, finding a way in real time to the heart.
Wow, that's very
So,
clever. I did
so
not catch that. That's wonderful.
no, I mean it's a kind of subliminal thing.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Okay, well, here is the next part of your phrase, and then. Some very nice piano licks in there. Oh my God, it's a really nice.
Well, I
I
think,
yeah,
that's kind of piece that I might, if I was doing a jazz gig with the trio, I would potentially do that that's something like that, I guess, as an intro, and then we'd go into a thing, one, two,
yeah,
three, ba, ba,
yes,
ba, ba, ba,
yeah. That's great. Now, was it Bill Russell? There was some jazz musician that took every possible. I mean, he had every possible combination of things that go in 12 notes consecutively. So your five fingers, you could play all the chords in the world inside an octave. And so he had all the different fingerings for every chord in that octave. And then there was another thing I saw at the Berklee School of Music where they had a compendium of every possible combination of phrases ever possible, and it just went on forever. There's so many ways to think about jazz, and
Oh yeah.
and you've got a really wonderful grasp on the feel of that. That was just great. That was great. So there's one more we're going to play from the Playing Free,
Yeah.
and this is called Seeking Harmonies. Anything you want to say about that before I play it?
Again, just that it had its genesis in exactly the same way.
Yeah.
It just started, and it evolved itself.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Here we go. Seeking Harmonies.
In
Very,
some ways, I feel like you get the most honest version of me in those pieces
that's
because
interesting.
there's nothing over considered. It's all like a response in real time. So it's kind of like talking.
Yeah.
Um, you
As
know,
opposed to having a professional speech. This is it's the real you.
exactly that.
Yeah.
Yes, where you
Yeah.
kind of edit through and you think about, oh yeah, maybe I could make more impact with this, you
It's like a
know.
musical conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Some people describe the piano talking to them, but I don't. I think in this case, you're talking to us through the piano is kind of how it happens. Yeah.
Maybe, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
Now, this is completely different. This is more on the religious side, which you do a lot of work in, and also choral. This is from the title, I think, of this track is Jazz Missa Brevis. I'm not sure I'm saying that correctly. Number two, Gloria in Excelsis. Do you want to give us a little background on that
Yeah,
before I?
so this is you're right that I've written a lot of liturgical music, I suppose, because I grew up singing in church choirs,
Yeah.
and had a lot of connections with that. And I love writing for church choirs. Yeah,
Mm.
this is a piece commissioned by Portsmouth Cathedral in the UK, and they were looking for a kind of short, punchy jazz mass, with jazz instruments that they could use regularly in worship, and they do. They use it a good 6 or 7 times a year.
I love
Um,
it.
they sort of bring in the instruments. So this is the very upbeat kind of funky Gloria.
Excellent. Wow. It makes it very exciting. This kind of treatment is very exciting. And I'm wondering now, I think about maybe the music that we hear that came from the 12th century or something was as exciting for them at that time as this is to us today, you know?
Yeah, well, yes, I know what you mean because there's a tendency to think that music from times past sort of didn't have energy like
Yeah,
we understand it. But
right.
humans haven't changed that much, right? I mean, we
Mm,
still like energy and
yeah,
excitement.
yeah.
I hadn't heard that performance. They're great, that choir.
Oh, really? You didn't know that
Um,
one?
I,
Okay. So,
no, it puts me in mind that there's some tremendous choirs in Asia,
yeah,
and I'm lucky to be working one in Taiwan at the moment,
yeah.
doing a big new piece in December in
Hmm.
Taipei. and I visited them a couple of times. We've done Mass in Blue, and their skill at both, more traditional Chinese repertoire and then
Yeah.
also Western repertoire is incredible.
Hmm.
Incredible. Really
Well, this
exciting.
this next one's Benedictus
Yeah.
from your album Mass and Blue, and I have to confess, there's so many ways to find your music out there that I may find stuff you haven't heard before,
Yeah.
but it's been I listened to it at least once, and it seems to represent your music well. So hopefully this will be a good one too. This is called Benedictus Mass and Blue. So let me just set this up. And do you want to give us a little background on that before I turn it on?
Sure. Yeah. So this is from my Mass in Blue 2003. In many ways, a sort of breakthrough piece for me in sort of publishing terms, and it's a piece that kind of has taken me all over the world.
Mm.
Again, combining jazz and the Latin text of the Mass. Um, Interestingly enough, when I wrote this piece, I did a whole draft of the entire Mass. And then, with about 3 weeks before the deadline, I listened through to the whole thing and thought, I hate this.
Oh no.
I hate this. It's
Oh.
terrible. And the
Mm.
only bit I liked was this
Oh.
because there's a kind of joy and a jazz energy to it. And I used this as the model. Everything else, I got rid of everything else.
Oh.
And I brought back the joy into all the other parts of the Mass. I think I was trying to be too much that kind of, maybe, dare I say, sort of clever composer,
Yeah.
almost like not letting the obvious happen. So
Well,
this
I
is
think it
this
was
is
Gershwin that said that he would go to a hotel and he compose 8 pieces and one of them would be good. The rest he'd throw out. Like he just,
Yeah.
just
Well,
yeah.
listen, if someone as prestigious as that says that, I'm right there.
Here you go. Nice. Wow. That is great. Get your heart pumping. It's a foot tapping, but also really wonderful. Yeah.
I mean, I've had so much joy performing that piece around the
Hmm.
world and doing it with choirs. And it choirs. I mean, it's funny when it was first performed. I thought no one's going to like this piece. No one's going to get it. They're not going to like the combination. Maybe they're going to think it's kind of irreligious or disrespectful or any of it.
Ah,
But
yeah.
none of that has ever been a problem. I think people love the energy of the piece. You know, many of the movements are very energetic. There's a massive credo with a big kind of swing and a 12/8 thing that goes on, and it's very kind of it's very technicolor. And whether I'm sometimes I conduct it, but often I play piano in it, and I always have a great time.
Yeah.
I
Well, and
noticed. I was just
yeah.
looking at the my calendar here. I noticed that in Rochester, New York, they're doing a performance on the 17th of October. I
Oh,
just
no
happened
kidding.
to, so gets done in the States a lot. I
That's
think the
wonderful.
choirs kind of get the vibe of it.
Yeah. Now, on the business side of things, how do you get the word out? How does this all come about for you? Because you are very successful at this out in the industry, so to speak. So,
Yeah, I mean, I suppose when I was a kid, I thought it would be easy. You'd kind of have a hit record, and then everything would take care of
right. Yeah, right.
itself.
Yeah.
And then you learn sometime through your 20s, that you got to make connections, you got to get pieces in front of people. I mean, I've
Right.
always been very industrious at kind of getting pieces, copies of pieces or recordings. I don't find it easy. I don't find it easy to self-publicize, but I think I did enough of it in my kind of 20s and early 30s
Yeah.
that then I reaped the benefits further down the line. But
Hmm.
there's definitely pieces that help you. This piece, for example,
Yes.
became
Yeah.
very well known. And then with choral music, if choirs like a piece, other choirs will do it. It's
Yes.
kind of word of mouth.
Yeah.
Um, Another piece of mine is a little carol called My Lord Has Come. It's a very simple carol,
Mm.
but it's been kind of quite a big calling card for my music, and lots of choirs have done it. So I think certain works that you write or certain projects that you work on can kind of help raise your profile.
Yeah.
It's not every piece you write that does that, just
Mm.
certain ones that do. Um,
Now that was a professionals adult course. We have now a children's course for this next thing called Big Sing Wonderland Restored. You want to give us a little background on that one?
Yeah, so I wrote an opera in 2013 called Alice's Adventures in Wonderland
Mm.
for a brilliant opera company in London called Opera Holland Park. They did it for 5 seasons, and in fact, they're bringing it back this coming
Oh.
season in the summer. But then another opera company, very good opera company in the UK called Opera North, asked if I could in some way turn it into a children's project
Hmm.
where the children could sing some sections and then they would interact with a professional cast.
Hmm.
And so that was kind of a kind of offshoot version. So it still tells the same story as our main opera, but it kind of simplifies certain things. And they've had real success with it. I mean, it gives me absolute joy. I love working with young performers and
Mm.
helping them on their journey. I mean, I remember as a kid in primary school going to events a bit like this where maybe some professionals come and help you sing or create a piece of music. And it's so powerful when you're young.
Yeah.
It really is powerful. So
Well,
yeah,
you
this is a
feel
project.
yeah.
This is a project like that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, there's a little bit of the children talking at the very beginning too. You can hear the energy here. It's just wonderful.
Wonderland Restored is a reworking of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, which was an opera written for Opera Holland Park. Because the reworking is for a big sing. So it's all about how the story can be told by hundreds of kids rather than a small cast of professionals.
Good afternoon, everyone. So tomorrow is your Big Sing concert. Who's feeling excited? Yeah. Who's feeling a little bit nervous? That's okay. That's all right.
This is a commission that we've had done by Will Todd. Wonderland Restored was an opera that existed for professional opera companies to take on, and we wanted something that was based around Alice in Wonderland. And we had a listen to this, and we just thought the music was perfect, playful, and something that the children could really get involved with. We got in contact with Will Todd, and he's come back to us with this production, and it's just spectacular, and the kids are really, really enjoying singing it.
So the thing I enjoy the most is seeing children enjoying music and making friends through music and getting new experiences through music.
The best thing was we had the chance to perform with all these amazing singers.
It gives me a chance to figure out if I want to be an actor or if I want to be a singer when I'm older.
I think it's so important that all children have the opportunity to sing together. It's such a natural thing. It kind of comes from right deep within us. And I think everyone should have that opportunity.
It makes me feel really alive because I'm singing in front of an audience, and if I continue doing the good work, maybe I could become a singer in my life.
That's really very inspiring. It's wonderful. It really is.
Yeah, it's really nice to see that again. And they're still doing it. I think they've done it for 4 or 5 years in a row, and I think it's really good because all the kids learn them in their separate schools, and they come together for these big events, and it's powerful. Yeah.
Now we have a little video next, which is Like a Rainbow Shining. Give us a little background on that one.
Yeah, so this happened during COVID. And you'll remember, of course, COVID was where most of us learned what Zoom was, right?
Yes, exactly.
Never heard of what it was. So a friend of mine who had commissioned music from me in the past said, look, Will, is there any way you could make a song or a resource that we could have as a free resource downloadable for choirs to use so that they can do their own virtual choirs? So the theme of the song is around, separation but connection. And we made this video as the kind of inspiration video, if you like. And it pleased me so much. Literally choirs all over the world did their own virtual choirs of it. All of the resources were available for free, the backing tracks, the different learning tracks. They're still free. So if you're a choir director, and of course, you don't have to do it as a virtual choir, you can just do it as a performance. So if you're a choir director who likes this piece, go to the willtodd.com or .co.uk, and you can download this for free.
Excellent.
Together
Nice film that, isn't it, as well? Commissioned
Very
by,
nice.
by Leo Mansell, and he does lovely videos.
Mm.
So yeah, it's special.
Well, I had COVID for 9 weeks when it first came out, so I have a special feeling about that whole event. But thank you for doing that to, help people deal with it, because it was quite a trying time for all of us. And I'm glad that, most of us survived. Thank God for that. And
Yeah, God, well, I'm glad you did.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
poor man. Yeah.
Yeah, that came through okay. So, but that's a wonderful piece. Now we're going to end with this beautiful piece called Stabat Mater. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but it means mother stood up or mother standing. And this is this from the album called Passion Music? Is that what that is?
So Passion Music is the album is called Passion Music, but the piece Passion Music is an oratorio about 50 minutes long, again for jazz ensemble and choir and soloist, and it's based around the Easter story, the Passion of Jesus Christ. And so this Stabat Mater is a Latin text, as you say, standing at the cross. So Mary standing at the cross. This is Mary, the mother of Jesus, standing at the cross. So it's a song of lament. And this was a commissioned piece, and I assembled the text myself. And what was interesting about this was that I was trying to find a way to connect a kind of modern sort of contemporary choral music timbre, kind of multi-note timbre, with a kind of jazz feel somehow. So what you'll hear in this piece is it alternates. The choir is a cappella with this very close harmony sound, and then at a certain point in the chorus, if you like, the piano, bass, and drums kind of shimmer in underneath, so you get this amalgamation of two, in a sense, distinct styles, which I hope blend into one.
Oh, very nice. In fact, I'm glad we're ending with this piece, because it literally is, I'm convinced this is the music one will hear when they enter the pearly gates. It just is amazing. So without further ado, this is the piece. Wow, leave us hanging at the end. Oh my God, that brings a tear to my eye. It's just unbelievable, unbelievable. What a fitting way to
Yeah.
start an interview. Oh my God.
I'm so glad you played that because in a way it kind of draws together, as I think I've said, and it's been lovely to have the opportunity to speak with you.
Mm,
Um, there's
likewise.
many shades to the music that I've written over the years, but I think that almost encapsulates it perfectly. You've got that kind of very intense choral sound and then this kind of jazz thing
Wonderful
happening.
amalgam of like two completely different styles that you've blended together and found a whole new path, which is just glorious, just absolutely wonderful. I wish we had another hour. I have to tell you that I enjoyed listening to a lot of your other music. There's a lot of music online. In fact, you have a wonderful YouTube presence, and there's a lot of shorts as well. For you millennials that can't listen to anything more than 2 minutes, there's a lot of shorts in there. But there's some wonderful, wonderful music in there. So thank you so much for all your time. I wish that we could have a Q&A with you, but of course it's going to be 1:30 in the morning your time when we actually air this thing. So we're not going to do that. But I want to thank you again, Will, for this wonderful experience, and we look forward to seeing more of you and hearing more of your music over time. And you just keep doing what you're doing because we're enjoying it so much.
It's been a real, real pleasure. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Will. Have a great night.